Hey, everybody. Welcome tonight to the latest episode of Wizards of the Couch. Thanks for joining us tonight from wherever your isolation pod exists in the real world. We're obviously going through a really interesting time right now, and we just want to bring the love of gaming to you here on Twitch. So tonight we're going to be doing a very special episode with a very special guest who's returning to us. So we're going to talk about the best and worst, in our humble opinions, D&D adventures that have been put out in the 4-decade long history of this game. And we're not gonna only deal with 5e. We're gonna anything is fair game. So and for many different reasons, and we'll discuss that as we go further in. Just a real quick warning to people who have not seen the show before, and to some of you who have. There is an adult theme to this show, just in the sense that we are pretty irreverent and we do a little cussing and drinking, and we're not afraid to share bold opinions when they are required. So pour one for yourself and join us for the latest episode of Wizards of the Couch. So kicking things off right away, before we even get to introductions, I just want to say that, the current challenge that the nation and the world is going through right now with coronavirus is very serious. I think all of us, Brian, Jimmy, Matt, our guest Alex, and myself all agree that this is no joke. We've read a lot. We've seen a lot of things from differing perspectives, and the steps that most people are taking are what needs to happen. One of the recent setbacks that we all felt was the cancellation of a really special convention that happens right here in my backyard in Wisconsin, Gamehole Con, dedicated to the memory of Gary Gygax, who, along with a couple of other people, founded this hobby, really. And that was a crushing blow, but that's not a tragedy. A tragedy is people dying, and we do not want that to happen. So it's not a tragedy, it's a challenge. We're going to all get through it. And next weekend, there is going to be a virtual con going on. Matt can speak more to that as we go further into this. Matt, you're muted, just by the way. And we have over 200 events already scheduled. The outpouring from the community of Gamehole Con and gamers in general has been freaking amazing. So please consider going. We'll put the link in the doobly-doo and also put it over in the chat for people to go and sign up for those games. And, it's not the same as being there, but being there would be dangerous. And the con organizers, Luke and Carolyn and Dave and a host of other unnamed stalwarts and minions who make that thing happen, they really had to make some tough decisions, and they made them, and that's what it's going to take. So all that, let's move beyond it, and let's just have a great show. I am Danny Grimes. I am a professional GM. I'm a graphic designer. I'm a terrain designer and a cartographer for Wizco Games. I'm looking at Matt, who is above me. He is the owner and normally runs Kobold Con, but he also is the head of the Chief Raven over at Blackwood Society and kind of the guiding light of Wizco. What are you drinking tonight, Matt?
I went off the reservation a little bit. Ooh. And got some. Oh
boy, you can't say that anyway, one at all.
I got some moose drool. Moose drool, not to be confused with moose something else, but moose drool brown ale tonight.
Delicious.
Great. Yeah. In the window up over that way, I'm not sure. I still can't ever see what's going on in the interface. We have Brian. I see that guy at every convention, Berg. That title has to sting a little bit right now, of course, but Brian is trooping it out and doing his best to make sure that as soon as we can be at conventions again, he's going to be there. He's an author, a game designer, and the owner-operator over at Total Party Kill Games, and he kind of keeps everybody motivated and moving forward here at Wizco and at Wizards of the Couch. Brian, what you drinking?
I've got an arsenal tonight. Yeah, so I'm going to start with in light of my dear friend Strahd. We're going to do a little cranberry vodka, but later. Later, I'm pulling out the Exile by
mixing. Oh,
Ruthie by Exile. Yeah,
it's like before beer, never fear, right?
Time to mix it up. When the bars close, you just head home, right?
Well, fuck, we're all working from home too, so I mean,
We're working from home. We're drinking from home. And finally, Jimmy Duffy. He is the chief reject over at Praetor's Rejects Twist channel. He's been doing lots of cool things, including a recent Aliens game, which was very well received, and which we might see more of next week or 2 weekends from now. So it'll be exciting to see that. He runs a bunch of stuff over at Praetor's Rejects. He also runs a bunch of stuff here at WizCo. And Jimmy, what you drinking?
Screwdriver.
Screwdriver. Wow. Monday night screwdriver.
It's ladies' night, apparently.
Interesting.
I'm trying to fight off the Corona plus have a little drink. So there you go.
Corona, cranberry vodka and a screwdriver.
I am working, folks.
Well, isn't that special?
Oh, so, really, Cersei? Here we go, man.
And I am drinking some delicious Glenlivet 12-year-old.
Jimmy has to take a drink.
Oh, Jimmy takes a drink. All right.
I know exactly who's going to be drinking tonight.
Hold on, 2 second pause. So for all of you that just noticed that card pop up, we now have a collection of 50 cards that you can get through Streamloots, and we'll post the link here in a second. But that was the first card played on our show.
Second one,
which was
he played a meme. He played a meme. Sorry.
Oh, okay. Which was to make Jimmy drink.
Yeah, but I drank.
If you would like to make any of us drink, there are cards in there for all of us.
And y'all should also redeem the pictures.
I'm only going to be worried when Bashman shows up. So
he's here.
Oh, he is.
He thinks he's cashing them in right now. So, okay, there you go, Matt. He just got some digital loot now.
Sounds good. So now we will move on to the topic of the evening, the 10 or so best or worst D&D adventures of all time. And for this, we are joined once again, a returning guest, Alex Kammer. I'm not going to go through all of his bona fides. He's been involved in gaming for a long time. The things that matter tonight are that he's the guy who runs Gamehole Con, along with a whole suite of a whole team of people. But I think he's pretty well known for that. But also he is the keeper of the game hole, some of which you see behind him in this picture. That ain't no green screen. And he is going to talk tonight about some of his best and the best and worst in his opinion, and then we're all going to have our own opinions to share. So Alex, welcome to the stream.
Thanks for having me, and to anticipate the next question, I'm drinking a delicious Kronbacher with a Kronbacher glass. I poured it myself as I walked by the old bar in my restaurant downstairs. And so what you were speaking on the coronavirus, this has been a challenge. I have a partial interest in 2 restaurants, more than just a partial. And so what's happening with everyone appropriately practicing social distance, obviously it's having a dramatic impact on businesses, everything from game stores to restaurants to retail, everyone. And that this is going to be interesting days to see how we all get through this. But the most important thing is, as Danny stated, is to follow what your state and local health officials are telling you. So when they say stay home, really stay home. And that's that's the only way we're going to get through this as quickly as possible. And then with respect to GaryCon, those are all very good friends of mine. I've been on staff on GaryCon for a few years ago. I haven't been for a while, but I was intimately involved with Luke's decision in canceling the show, and actually with the negotiations with the Grand Geneva. I'm an attorney, so I helped with going through that contract and making sure that it was okay, that they were able to step out of that without any great consequence. And I can tell you that Luke really ground over that decision. That was a really tough call, and I have nothing but sympathy for him. And I kept telling him, man, you don't really have a decision here to make. You really don't have any choice. But I understand how difficult it is to actually pull the trigger, given the literally thousands of people who are looking forward to the show, who have such strong feelings about it, and we're so looking forward to celebrating and gaming. And I was one of them. So I feel the same with you guys. It's a real bummer. And kudos to you guys for especially Matt. I know you've been spearheading this effort of the virtual GaryCon. That's so great to give something. It's not. You're right. It's not going to be the same, but it's still going to be fun, and it's still going to be cool. And people are going to be gaming, and especially with the confluence of this shit that we have to endure about staying at home anyway. I mean, we might as well be gaming. So again, hats off. So I appreciate what you guys are doing.
Oh yeah, absolutely. Wouldn't
for sure. And I think that we're gonna hopefully see an uptick in more people doing this online stuff. This is gonna be a lot of people's first introduction, and maybe some of the fear that people have had about the technical aspects is going to be something that people will be able to overcome and enjoy this more in the future. Okay, so you're obviously sitting in the library known as the Gamehole. So why don't you just tell us just a little bit about it? I know we talked about this last time, but just the précis, please.
Yes, I'll give you the fast and dirty. This is the place. This is my game room above a bar I own. I have my collections housed here. This is where we game once a week. The Gamehole. It's a game group, and behind me and around me and in front of me are shelves and shelves and shelves of everything that TSR ever produced. My main claim to fame, other than having all the rares and a lot of good copies of them, just looking at some of the ones over there, is having a complete set of all the D&D modules, the TSR modules in original shrink wrap. And I even pulled a few tonight, so I can do a little show and tell as I go through some of the ones that mean a lot to me, some of the modules that I care about and the adventures that I love. So that's it. It's a game room. People in this chair, Mike Merles has sat here, Chris Perkins has sat here, Ed Greenwood has sat here. Lots of people have sat here to come and run games for us. It's a great group. You know how deep you guys have obviously game groups that mean a lot to you. That's the Gamehole means a tremendous amount to us, to the people that are in it. We've been together for almost 20 years. So those are the guys who run Gamehole Con. And if it wasn't for our getting together once a week to play D&D or whatever we play, Savage Worlds or Call of Cthulhu, whatever we play that week, there would be no Gamehole Con because that's the guys who do it. So there you go.
Yeah, that's impressive, and I have yet to come and see the collection. Right now, I'm eyeing over your right shoulder several copies of the Fiend Folio. I'd know that shade of blue anytime, anywhere. So let's just talk. I guess I'm just kind of curious. Out of all the things that you have collected, like what, just off the top of your head, like what's the craziest thing, the craziest D&D related thing that you're just like, wow, they made this?
Yeah, there are a couple, and so you're the subject of the show are best and worst, and these are a couple. I won't even include them in my worst, but they should be.
They almost made the cut.
Yeah. No, they're just so awful. One is a weird little adventure. I'm staring right at it because it's embarrassing to tell you how much I paid for it. It's called the Jade Hare. And the Jade Hare came out in 1986. It was a promotional module. And what was odd about it, they only had a print run of 200, which is small, but that's not, scarce. For whatever reason, all the covers were torn off, all of them, except for 10 or maybe 11 total copies. And of those 10 or 11 copies, there are 3 total known in shrink wrap, and I have one of them. It's just a terrible module, though. It's just dumb. It's just purely a function of scarcity. Purely scarcity. Nothing to do with quality. Not a reflection of good design. Not a good reflection of good art. Not a good reflection of good layout. Nothing. It's just is rare. Another one is Up the Garden Path, which was produced by TSR UK back in I think 1980. What was that? 87, I believe. 87, I'm pretty sure. And they premiered it at the UK Garden Expo, right? And guess how many people who went to the Garden Expo were interested in a frickin' D&D module? Well, just about 0, right? So they sold almost none of them. They all got thrown away. So here again, a terrible module that is a layout of the Garden Expo. That's what it is. That's what the module is. And it's just stupid. And the vast majority were thrown away. So here now we have these rares, and they're just going for ungodly amounts of money. And I have a couple copies over there. And it's just so, those are the ones I think of like, that's just dumb that I own. But it's just my completionist. I'm a completionist nerd, and if you don't, if you have that bug, you know what I mean? It just is, it doesn't matter how little sense it makes. You just got to have it. And then you can just close that off and you can go to sleep that night then.
So
right. Alex, as someone who's not a completionist or a collector really in any sense that way, I talked to a couple of my friends who are completionist collectors, and they said there gets to be a point where you're really close to having it all. Like it's within striking distance, and that has its own magnetism. Like now you're like, I don't care anymore. I only have 27 more things that I need, and I'll do whatever it takes to get them. And that kind of illuminated it for me. Like I get it. It's not necessarily an obsession with quality or an obsession with any of that. It's more just like, I got to get them all.
So Alex, I know since I've actually been lucky enough to grace the Gamehole and like really get to explore and drink beer there, you have one more really unique thing that you play on, don't you?
Oh, well, yeah. My laptop is sitting on Monty Cook's gaming table. He built this thing when he had it built when he was in Milwaukee, as when he was working for TSR. And it is a recessed style, kind of craps style looking table with pull-out sheaths and tables that pull out, sheets that pull out on either side for people to have books. And it's a big white grid squares, magnetic squares. And, we've been playing on this thing for years. But when Monty when Wizards bought, I guess Peter Atkinson bought TSR, moved it to Seattle, Monty followed shortly thereafter and he couldn't bring it. And so that's when I got my greasy paws on it. He claims that this was the original sort of inspiration for the Geek Chic tables, which now are, of course, they're bankrupt. Yep. And I don't know if that's true or not, but it certainly they sort of look like it. This one looks like a earlier version of it. But yeah, so you're absolutely right. That's I guess this is a collector's item in and of itself.
Yeah, for sure,
Yep.
for sure.
Yeah, not only bankrupt, like multi-million dollars under, didn't they? I mean, they were well underwater when they went.
Yeah, I had one buddy who, John Kovalik, actually, he put some money down and it was a pretty big deposit. I remember looking at it. I remember at the time because I was thinking, okay, I could buy Monty's table, or I could buy it's called a Sultan, and it was like 13 grand or something like that. And they wanted like 8 up front. And
that's it, Sultan.
Yeah, right. And so my friend John Kovalik, who is you probably have heard of him. He's the guy who did Apples to Apples. He does he's done all the art for Munchkin and stuff like that. He's
right. That's where I know him from. Yep.
Yeah. He's actually very close to me here in Middleton, in Wanakee. Anyway, he had a deposit with them and I was able to get it back for him when they declared whatever they declared. They were sort of informally, they sort of just stopped answering emails.
Solve it, yeah. Mm-hmm.
Yeah. So I sent a nasty letter and he got his back, but I have no idea how everyone else did. I don't know what happened.
A little plug for the legal system. I sent.
What was that you were saying the other day? Every town has a hammer, and are you now officially Alex Hammer Kammer?
No, that's true. I always giggle when I go through every city. There's some guy on a billboard like holding like a piece of pipe. The hammer. You want justice? Go see the hammer. I just like, oh my god, what's going on in their professions?
Yeah. So
I ask that all the time.
So as a person who has collected such a vast collection, and who I'm sure has many prized, hard-won collectibles, aside from just cost or value, monetary value, what would you say your most prized thing is? Like when you look at it, you're like, yeah, that's what it's all about.
Well, I think it's just that it's going to be similar to how you would answer that question. And there's so much nostalgia with gaming, and it's more of remembering that feeling of when you were playing a game at a time when you were just discovering it, or maybe even more recently. But there's just that sort of the ephemera that surrounds it, and that's what when I pick my favorites, that informs that heavily. I recall great games that I had as a kid or in the Gamehole, and I have a strong association with that product than if we were using a published product. So when I'm asked, what's your favorite module, Kammer, I always say it's Tomb of the Lizard King. I freaking love Tomb of the Lizard King. It's a good module, and I think it's well designed. I don't think it's unbelievably well designed. I have here, I think I pulled where is that? I think it's right here. Yeah, I have a couple of shrink wrap copies here.
Hold them up just a little bit higher.
There you go. Tomb of the Lizard King.
Yeah.
Yep. That's on my top 10 too, Alex.
Oh, okay. Well, it's good to hear. I just loved it. I remember running it. This was early days of the Gamehole, and I remember that opening scene where you're in a council and there's a flame strike and a strike, and you start counting down to 10 for no reason, and the player's like, "What the fuck is happening?" And we had just a great time throughout that whole adventure, and so it's probably more emotional than rational. That's probably would be my answer as my favorite one.
I think I liked it so much because it was the first thing where I saw that triptych of like wilderness, town, dungeon.
Yep.
And like you got to the people who like different things. Like I finally realized, hey, people like different things. Yeah, and that was sadly that was a big revelation for me. But it taught me a lot about how to run games thereafter.
Yeah.
So let's just kick it off real quick. I just want to say thanks to all our patrons who are out there supporting us. Thanks for the people who show up in the stream. People who are buying bits and cards to help add that that participation in for the fans, because I really think that it is a lot of fun. We enjoy interacting with that stuff as well. I think King Bashman is going to be the death of all of us tonight, but we'll see.
I think
but these people
thanks.
Are the inspiration for producing the show. So I want to make sure that we always hear what they have to say and make sure that we try to give people what they want, because I think we all share a lot of interests, but then people bring things to us all the time that we didn't consider, and I think that's the thing that gets us all going. We need that food as well in order to be energized for the show. So jumping right into it, I don't know how we want to do this. We kind of kept it Wild West. So this is the new thing. No elbow bumps or
There's a new card, Matt. There's a new card. Pew, 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 pew.
Oh yeah, pew, pew. I'm gonna go back and snip that one. That'll be the GIF.
Yeah. There you go. So why don't we start? Alex kind of kicked it off.
Hey, welcome our raid. Thanks for coming over, guys.
Bringing them over.
Yeah,
coming to raid to see Alex Kammer. Okay.
Yeah,
they are. Not here to see me.
The Gamehole.
Who's raiding us?
Zeltaris.
Oh, nice. So I think we kicked it off with Alex just a second ago talking about Tomb of the Lizard King. I'm certain that's on your list of top 10 best, right? In the top 10 there?
Oh yeah, for me, absolutely.
So I would say that's it's good for the reason that I stated as well. It introduced me to something new that I'd never seen before. Has anybody else played Tomb of the Lizard King?
I don't think I played that one.
So this is a really important thing. Brian, what did you tell me just the other day about when this topic came up? You suddenly realized something.
Oh yeah, no, it's crazy. Like I started doing a little research. And I brought up the list of every module ever published because years of heavy metal and heavy drinking have addled my brain. But I'm looking at this list and I'm like, God, if I've played 10% of the modules that have been ever published for D&D, I would be astounded.
Oh yeah, you mean for all editions? Oh my God. Oh yeah.
Brian, have a drink.
Shocking amount of content.
Brian, drink.
Have a drink.
Oh, drink. Great.
Yeah.
Alex is going, what the hell did he sign up for tonight?
No, that sounds fine to me. That's the whole point.
Yeah.
We should have a drink for the guest, Matt. Okay, because Alice will feel left out.
I didn't want to, force their hand, I suppose. But yeah, next time. He can just drink. He can drink whenever one of us has to.
Aside from Tomb of the Lizard King, which I think I really enjoyed, and obviously Alex did too. What are some other modules that other people have played? Let's just kind of kick off and get some in the scrum, and then we can talk a little bit about them.
Go ahead, Brian.
Brian.
I have a feeling Brian has a particular genre.
I do. I mean, if we want to talk about my favorite, I'll just bring it up right here, right now. And for the exact reasons that Alex mentioned. Because honestly, I don't remember the content at all. But this was the first adventure I ever played, and emotionally, it's so tied to my D&D and memory. Yeah.
Also, what's difficult about this topic, though, I think when I actually thought about this today, guys, you should be impressed because I usually don't. But when you guys, we all design things now. We're all writers now. When you look at some of these things with the eye of a modern designer,
oh my,
Keep on the Borderlands doesn't hold up. It just doesn't.
Right.
It's silly in a lot of ways. It's there's a monster condo. It doesn't make any sense without any real explanation, and it's left to the DM to kind of concoct an explanation why the hell the hobgoblins and goblins and orcs and kobolds are all living next to each other without any doors. But did it. We did it happily back in the day. And there were some important things about Keep on the Borderlands. For example, it introduced the NPC as a concept, really, as someone that thinks and acts on their own. So from a design standpoint, for the history of design, it's an important module. And so that's why I don't want to, I tried, at least when I was thinking of the worst ones, I tried to not think, hey, this one doesn't stand up to modern design criteria. So I'm trying to, Brian and I are on the same page of how they made us feel. Is that how, that's how I made my grade. So if someone says, why does Kammer think that module is good? Because it's really stupid the way, it's because of that. Because I played it when I was a kid and I loved it. And, that just is what it is.
Yeah, and I think in the theme of keeping it light, and we didn't want to like really turn this into a doctoral thesis on game design. I thought about too the idea of like, well, what's the criteria? Obviously, modern game design has its roots in what came before, but so much has changed that it's really difficult to make those comparisons. Keep on the Borderlands for me. When I played that, I guess I felt some of that stuff, but it was the only game in town. So it was like, and quite literally, it was the only game in my town that I knew of. So for me, the idea that I could like occupy this space and meet all these different monsters, quite frankly, I didn't give a shit that it made no sense that there were D6 elves in one room and a blue dragon in another. And they were like
with no door separating, with nothing,
by 50 feet. Yeah, that wasn't the problem. For me, I was like, oh, I get to interact with a blue dragon. That's cool, and I'm gonna meet some elves, and so for me, like nostalgically, I think it was an introduction, almost like it was like a smorgasbord. So who doesn't like a smorgasbord? Even if you don't like everything on it, you're still gonna find enough stuff on it. For me, it's shrimp. That you're gonna enjoy. You're gonna enjoy that smorgasbord. For me, probably my favorite module that I've played out of the 30 or 40 out of a huge list is Red Hand of Doom, which was, I believe, that was the first. I think that was the first 3rd edition module. The first
right there.
one.
Yeah, it's got to be one of the first.
And it was kind of like the whole A team from the company worked on it, like a lot of really heavy duty artists. And it was like kind of the beginning of Mike Schley doing maps for them. And so for me, like I want a module that has a lot of backstory, has a lot of interesting characters. It has a story, but not too much.
Danny, you got called out. So not only do you have to pass the mic, but you also have to take a drink.
Okay. You take it.
We're
man.
Juveniles tonight. There's no
Thank
doubt
you
about
to
it.
whatever nameless person that was. I won't call you out.
All right. We're gonna roll I'm gonna roll my D20 here on my little thing here. All right, so it's the clear one. Oh, so close. It was a 15.
You can't. Oh my God.
No,
Not even try it.
Yeah, it's a 15. There you go.
Sorry there, Cersei.
No crit. All right. You were saying?
He had Red Hand of Doom. You've cut him off now, see? I'll chime in then, and just like Brian said, now my green screen's going to tear this apart, but you should be able to see the artwork.
There you go.
Okay. Slave Pits of the Undercity. Yep.
Oh, that looks pretty
There's
good.
the rehash. Yep.
Oh,
well, that's the super module. That's the super module in shrink wrap. Don't give me that. This is I've got all those individual ones in shrink too. But this has all of them combined as an anthology. That's a very handy thing if you want to run. I love that stream.
To the channel, because we are going to work the games up in Fantasy Grounds. They've released them for the 1E modules, but I am going to convert to 5, and we're going to run some dignitaries on through the whole series and the A0 series too.
Jimmy, I can't see it from here. It's on a different shelf. It's the reprint, the gold reprint, the new introductory material in 5e for the Slaver series is really good. That's
Okay.
a really great way to start that campaign. I think it's really good.
There you go. I wanted to work it all in, and Anna has given us permission to use her maps for the area. And so that is in the works. But for me, it was...
Thank you, Anna.
Outside of the module I've talked to Alex about, which I want to talk about because I'm still trying to finagle him to help me out, get that and do some stuff with it. This series it's nostalgia. I've played it several times. I love running it. It's not perfect. There's no means by that, but it was the module. I mean, it was there. It was outside of the B series. And let's talk about, those came with the boxes, but this is the first one I got my hands on. And I was just like going, oh, you gotta be kidding me. This is so cool.
That Jeff D back cover too. Man.
I love that artwork. I just,
yeah.
And so for me, it has always been that A series. I love it.
Trying to get him to come down to Gamehole Con next year, but assuming we have it. But yeah, I love his art style as well.
We will go get the gold series.
I think that was the first time I ever saw a campaign published. Like a true, like, spanning time type thing. Everything else had been episodic and you could tie it together. This was built to be tied together.
Yeah.
What about you, Matt?
So this guy right here, we're talking sentimental value versus actual content, but Night's Dark Terror was the bridge book between.
No, I'm not doing it.
Did I miss a card?
No, he wants to be acknowledged in chat. I'm not doing it.
Who was
it?
Who was it?
Who do you think it is?
God. Hi, Jeff.
Who else?
Yeah, Night's Dark Terror is great because it's a bridge between basic and expert edition, and just like somebody was talking about earlier, it's like Danny was talking about earlier. It's got you start out as the caravan guards, and you go into the town, and then there's a forest, and then you go into the valley, and there's a ton of new monsters in it. And it was one of my first experiences as a dungeon master. I think that's probably why it has quite a bit of appeal for me. But the maps in it are really what did it for me. I don't have it shrink wrapped, Alex. Sorry.
You can always have it shrink wrapped. That's something you can always do.
That's true. Yeah,
that's the easy problem. If you really want it to be shrink wrapped, it's really inconvenient.
But the maps were super. I mean, it was a full table size map. You can't play minis on it. They're not inch size. It's not inch size squares. It looks more like 3/4 of an inch. But I mean, it was really impressive. And like I say, one of my first experiences as a DM. So it's always held a high regard for me. I've held it in high regard. Plus, it's a really good glimpse at the official D&D world, like however you pronounce it, Karmakos. Somebody's gonna tell me if butchering it. Karamikos. Yeah, it's set in Karamikos.
So Bruce Lee.
That's like one of my go-tos, I guess. Get the cricket.
So I've got a bunch of other ones that I use.
Keep going.
You guys
fire away, Alex.
I'm just going to tell you, and you could give me a yay or nay.
Okay.
One of my favorites, another one is C2 Ghost Tower of Inverness.
Yes.
My good buddy Alan Hammock, and one of the sweetest men you'll ever meet, and such a nice guy. And it's a really good adventure. In fact, one of the guys right now, Eric Engblom, who's a member of the Gamehole, is running this module for my daughter's group, and they're all 11 and 12-year-old girls, and they're playing Inverness, and they're digging it. They're questing for the soul gem, and it's really fun. So there's that one. C2. I think that's a classic. I don't think that's going to really invoke any wrath. Another one of my favorites from another great guy is Doug Niles, Against the Cult of the Reptile God. This is a really good introductory adventure.
That one.
Really good introductory adventure.
This is in my top 3.
I've got that one.
Yep. Love it. It's it's very easy to run. We're starting to now when you get to N1, you're starting to get to stuff that starts to look more like modern design. When it comes to the ease of the DM, you can step into it and say, okay, this doesn't take a ton of work for me to pull off. I don't have to figure out why the monsters are there. There's actually a story behind it, and with NPCs that make sense and in a real plot thread that sort of pulls players through. I think Doug did a great job of that. Which is funny because he says, "I'm an author, not a game designer." And then I guess one of my final ones of the sort of classics, and it's just I couldn't have talk about favorable modules without including Against the Giants. Against the Giants, it's sparse like Keep on the Borderlands, but it makes more sense than Keep on the Borderlands because the predilections of the Giants and the neighboring communities, you're hired to go sort that out, and then once you get to the steading, to Frost to Fire, there's a path, there are clues that pull you to the next one. And it's fucking dangerous as hell, and it's really good. And the monsters start to make sense. The ecology is laid out. I think Gary by then is starting to make more sense of why he's picking monsters to be in certain areas, as opposed to some of the older stuff where it was like you're talking about. I think you use elves and blue dragons adjacent to each other. Yeah, right, exactly. But at this point, we're starting to move into modules that made more sense.
I did already.
Yeah, for sure.
Yep.
And I just played that. Texas, North Texas, a couple of years ago, I think. Is it 2 years ago now? It will be this June. But yeah, the Hill Giants get into their den there, and it is extremely dangerous.
I bet. Now, Alex, you realize that this single episode is going to drive up the price of every module that we discuss, right? Like, I'm going to tomorrow. I'll be like, okay, Cult of the Reptile God, and the prices are just go.
Yeah. I wish that was a fact, but I don't think so. Yeah.
I have a quick question for Alex. Is the collecting thing like a two-way door? Like, do you sometimes sell off something to get something else?
No, that's where I always say is that stuff comes to the game hole to die. I'll give stuff away. I've laid some stuff on friends, that other collectors say, God, I can just never find this one thing. And I have 3, have one. And like, what? You can if I need something, you could lay it back on me or something. I don't want to get into the selling. First of all, I don't want to screw around with it, but also and what I do actually with my extras, if you've come to Gamehole Con, we have a GM DM reward pool. I put my extras in there. So I have, if I have extra copies of stuff, like I realized at one point that I had 8 copies of Tomb of the Lizard King. And then, well, okay, now that's excessive. I'm going to cut it off at 5. And the other 3 went into that pool, and some people got them for free when they're running games for us at our show. And that was great. So I don't sell things.
I'm glad you're able to put a metric on your obsession. 5, not obsessive. 6 or more, definitely obsessive.
Yeah, I get it.
No, that's cool.
Yeah.
I mean, honestly, I'm just glad that somebody exists, you, who makes this happen. Like, you have pulled it all together in one point. It's a museum, it's a museum of this hobby, and you're wonderfully open about sharing it with people, time permitting, obviously.
Sure.
And it's just cool to know that they're all there somewhere, and if somebody really wants to know what something looks like, they can come and take a look at it. So that's pretty.
And I've always been, this stupid windmill tilt of trying to get everything in original shrink wrap is really dumb. And the only reason I started it in the first place is I realized at one point that I had a lot of it already in original shrink wrap, and I thought, what a great thing to be able to endow a museum someday. Sooner or later, we're going to have a unified D&D museum somewhere. It's going to happen. And sure. I have several real artifacts that I will happily donate once that is established. I think it'll happen. I have some stuff in museums now. I have one of my brown boxes is out at in Mopop in Seattle. There, it's on loan. I'm gonna loan my huge Greyhawk. I don't know if you've seen my big Greyhawk canvas. That's gonna go to the Gary Gygax exhibit in Lake Geneva, and the nice. Lake Geneva's museum there. Cool. I think these things are meant to be shared. I mean,
for sure.
That's everything about gaming, sharing. That's the whole point of it. So
yeah, I think we're not still quite far enough away from the origin for people to properly understand the influence that this game and the mindset that went with it influenced all of video gaming. I mean, people pay lip service to it now, but I don't think people in another 10 years, if this growth that we're seeing now continues and the broad appeal continues to expand, I think people are going to someday look back and be like, dude was a genius. Like on par probably with like a Lovecraft or something like that in terms of originating a thing that has resonated throughout popular culture in a really profound way. So let's move on. Let's talk about some bullshit like the ones that are not good. And I'm happy to talk about the ones that are just not good on their face. But then I'm also interested to talk about the ones that are considered to be good, but maybe a second look at them, you have to, and I don't want to shit on them. I mean, I want to talk about maybe what they could be done to make them better, because that's really our role as a GM, is to take whatever we're given and give our players what they need. So it's not about ripping on these modules or their authors. It's just talking about like some that are difficult to run, I guess. So anybody who wants to kick it off, go ahead.
I was just going to say, I find it's funny now looking back at some of this stuff and how crappy some of them really can be. And I think Alex hit the nail on the head with some of those earlier. But back in the day, I just wanted to point out, like, that was gospel. I mean, I had a Dungeon magazine subscription for, I don't know, a decade probably. And that was like gold when it came out because we didn't know any better. And I didn't have any idea that some of that stuff was crap. But for me, and I know I'm going to steal some of Brian's thunder, for me, it's Castle Greyhawks, one of my most
it's just awful,
most reviled ones. It's just, I think I told this story on our last show, but it was at a convention early in my D&D career, if you will, D&D life, and got killed by a carrot because the DM thought that it'd be funny to have like a rabbit that had a carrot that did damage. And back in the day, 2010, if you remember that optional rule, he 2010'd me with a carrot. And I don't like that kind of humor in my D&D game, I guess. So that's one of my top hated ones.
I'm right there with you.
Second.
Mm-hmm. I don't love funny, kitschy humor in my games. Like, I like Ravenloft. I like brooding horror, drama, tense stuff, right? Like, I do dark fantasy. That's everything Total Party Kill Games has published is dark fantasy, right? So,
and if it, for my dollar, in my opinion, if you're going to do goofy, like White Plume Mountain is a better version of goofy. It's goofy, and it may be too goofy, but Castle Greyhawk is just, that's just an abomination. I can't even. Yeah, that's a terrible module. I can't get there either.
I actually like humorous D&D, but I only like it when it's the main line is humorous. So if the point of it is to be fun, then I have no problem. I just don't like it interjected in an otherwise serious game. I don't like that being jerked back and forth part. We used to play a thing called Fluffy Quest at Gen Con, where the primary protagonist was a poodle, and it had adventures across the multiverse. It was super fun to play, but it was not serious at all. Lots of humor, lots of visual gags, but that was the point of the game. So it didn't run counter to my expectation.
Sure. Yeah, and I think that's the key point, right? Back when we were limited in our ability to reach out and touch other gamers, so to speak.
Whoa, phrasing.
If you go and buy a module not knowing that it's going to be a funny thing, it just kind of pisses you off. What do you mean it's?
I mean, Castle Greyhawk sounds fucking epic, right?
Yeah. I guess you should have been tipped off by the cover art, I suppose.
Yeah, no, that's a little bit of a hint. Yeah, it's tough, man. You talk about there's some classics. There's some classics I just don't care for.
Fire away.
Tomb of Horrors.
Yep.
Oh yeah.
I just ran it 2 years ago, and I enjoyed running it, but it's not my favorite. I ran it because somebody said, "Dude, we got to play Tomb of Horrors."
Yeah, it's just, I get the explanation of the retconning that's happened. Oh, Gary was trying to punish high-level characters because they're lipping off. I'm like, okay, but really, is that really the reason why you publish a module and you're just fucked in certain spots? You're like, there's no right answer. That's never a proper design. I mean, that's just not. That's silly. I think. You just choose poorly with no information, and then you die. Oh, okay. All right. Well, great.
Yeah. So this is D&D,
Yeah, there's some sloppy ones like Queen of the Demon Web Pits. I really tried to like it. I've run it. I've actually converted it and tried to run it a couple times, and God, it's just so bad. It's just so scattered. Yeah,
Are we
it.
Still not cussing, or in our 5-minute no cuss timer?
We're still on no cussing.
It
got ruined. Way to go.
What the?
Way to go.
Yeah.
I didn't sign up for this.
You killed me. I was
Moa
gonna say, you
Chan. How
killed
about
me
that one,
in,
Alex?
Web Pit.
Oh, I did. That's true. I forgot about that.
Yeah.
I
At,
just took,
North
so that's what I
Texas.
did is I took a piece of it and I said, okay, I can invent a story around it and drop them in there, and then we can play a one shot. It's the only way you can do it. I think the actual webs themselves are just goofy. They're just silly. But you know, another one is Temple of Elemental Evil for me. Just sorry, I just don't care for it.
Oh, really?
Really tried. I just don't like it. It's scattered. It doesn't make any sense. It wanders. Doesn't have it. Even, and then the reprint, the one I think it's Princess Apocalypse for 5e is probably their worst product. In my opinion, I just think that's their worst one, and I think it's the source material informed that. But maybe I don't know. But it's just a bad adventure.
For me, it was
As someone who loves
Dragon
Parkinson's.
Queen.
As someone who loves Parkinson's art, never before has the cover raised me to great expectations.
For sure.
Only to have me page through and go, wow,
beautiful
there's
cover.
a lot of good stuff in here that's disconnected, and I don't understand it.
Mhm.
I own a copy. It's not in amazing shape, but I would agree.
Now that's the one that has Caves of Chaos at the beginning, right?
No.
Which one has is that Keep on the Borderland? Is that the one that has Caves of Chaos?
Well, the Keep on the Borderland has Caves of Chaos in it. Yeah.
Yes, that's the pre section. So for me, like, that's one of my favorite things. I loved the Caves of Chaos piece of that module, but I didn't particularly like the rest of the module because I liked the fact that people could wander around this valley and experience all these different monsters. Again, it didn't make a ton of sense, but it's actually a pretty usable set piece if you arrive in a monster-laden land where you can kind of introduce people to all the factions kind of in a quick way. So, but I wasn't a big fan of Keep of the Borderlands otherwise than that.
Well, you know what's interesting? You brought up the Tomb of Horrors, right? Did anybody play? I think there's a second edition version of this that got reprinted, maybe a box set. It was unplayable.
Oh, really? Worse.
What was it?
The Tomb of Horrors second edition box set.
Okay.
I'm pretty certain. Like, I'm not imagining.
Yeah, it's Return to the Tomb of Horrors. Yeah, it's right over here.
Good.
I never played it. I don't know if I have it, but
there's a reason. Because it was unplayable. It was there. Whatever edition, I must have got the first edition of it, the first printing. But like, things were just missing, or like the pages would like have text and it would go on to something else. You'd be like, that doesn't flow. It's not the same thing. And so we would be trying to adventure through it, and it was challenging. Of course, that's the whole point of it. But it was just so poorly edited, couldn't get through it.
yeah.
Yeah, Matt just showed one of my favorite episodes of Dungeon, or favorite issues of Dungeon, because I'm a super fan of Azarax's whatever that module is that has the slod. And I wanted to just touch base for people who do not know about Dungeon Magazine. I was never a fan of modules in general because I was a roll my own type guy. And so I had a few modules that I would run because they were just cool and people knew about them. But I used Dungeon Magazine ruthlessly. There was a lot of dogs in there because obviously when you're presenting that much content, you're going to have a certain amount that just isn't world class. But there were some really top notch, tight, concise, 10, 12 pages, no fat, still had story. Like the background literally took up a column and that was it. That's what you had to run with. And then the rest of it was just really meaty, good encounters, interesting monsters, stuff like that. So people who have not checked out Dungeon Magazine, I think you can still get the PDFs, right?
Danny, what's a magazine?
What's a magazine? Well, you see, back in the day,
You had this thing.
Hey, hold up the back of that magazine. The future is actually now.
Indeed it is.
That is not a joke. That is a literal prognostication right there in the back of that.
Okay, so one more thing to call out about Dungeons and Dragons magazine. It was made by a little company called Paizo, which we may have heard of, right?
Mm-hmm.
Well, originally it was TSR, but then eventually it became Paizo.
Yeah.
Well, speaking of Paizo, in my list, I have a Paizo product as well. I think Rise of the Rune Lords is among one of the best written, best designed, best executed adventures of all time. I think it stands up with any of them. I think it's really, really good.
Fantastic.
Pathfinder wore me out eventually, but I really, really enjoyed Rise of the Rune Lords. I thought it was great, and I for the life of me, I don't understand why those folks won't do a third-party printing of that. If they took Rise of the Rune Lords and converted it to 5e, they would sell the absolute shit out of it.
Print money.
Yeah, and I get the politics of it, and but man, that I would love to buy it. I think it's a wonderful adventure.
Yeah, somebody should definitely pitch that.
Yeah, I'm curious why. So Paizo did dip their toe in 5th edition, didn't they? Didn't they do something?
Not
recently?
really, not really. They have I don't. This is no. There's a book being kickstarted, and a third-party publisher was going to have some 5th edition monsters in it. That's the extent of it. They have not ever come out with anything 5e.
That's what I'm thinking. Yeah.
Yeah.
Oh, here goes Danny's roll. What was it?
19.
Okay, hold on.
Oh, so close.
Hold on.
What are we rolling here? What's
13.
going on?
I got a 13. If we roll a 20, somebody wins.
Okay.
Okay.
Yeah.
Nobody wins, but
Nobody
you almost
wins
did. Yeah.
So close.
Well, you guys don't want me rolling. I'll tell you that.
No.
Oh, we do want you rolling.
So, Alex, what else is on your list? Your top 10? Some really
yeah,
juicy stuff
yeah.
that I
Another one, and I grabbed it because I'm running it for 2 different kid groups right now. The Lost Mines of Phalandelver out of the starter set. This is an excellent adventure. We will not find a better designed module adventure than this one when it comes to hitting all the things that are key for in terms of structure, clarity, ease of use, presentation. I think it's great. I love it. When it comes to beginners or even not beginners, people who are just haven't played it, I roll it out and we always have fun. And it's always so fun to run because it's so easy. I remember when Chris Perkins was telling me about it years ago and about the starter set, and he actually he demoed a piece of it up here, back in 2014. And I had no idea when I actually got it. I thought, God, this thing is really great. So anyway, that's definitely on my list too.
Comes to the channel, my channel, Friday night for 5 more beginners. Here you go.
Oh,
so
yeah.
I think you're right too. It is almost foolproof beginner bait.
Yep.
Like people get into it.
Great
they understand
module.
all the things that you need, generally speaking, in a role playing adventure. It's got that little bit of intrigue. It's got some straight up fights that are relatively challenging. Yeah.
Well, and also from a design standpoint, God, Brian, you guys who write this stuff, it's hard. It's really hard to write good stuff that has compelling stories, right, that also gives players options to take different directions while being able to keep them on the same track. Everyone uses the misuse of the term agency, that's not what it means. But meaningful choices, I think, is what they're trying to say. And they have at every spot, should the players decide to go to Meow instead of here, there's a very easy way to get them back at some point when they want to go to town or do whatever. And with the ease, I'm quite frankly just impressed with the ease of which that is just baked into the copy in such economy of words too. For me, I'd write it'd take me 6 paragraphs to explain why the hell the party can go back to town if they want, and it's totally cool if they do. You can get them back this way, just like with 2 sentences, it's done. Like, okay, I completely understand. Player, go wherever you want, guys. I'm ready for it. For the beginner DM, I think it's really good, really good.
So I'm gonna steal a moment here, Matt. I know that you and I are gonna agree on one particular of our favorites. Now, Alex, I don't know if you've ever played this or not, but have you ever done the 2nd edition adventure called Dragon Mountain?
Parts of it, yeah, yep.
Matt, you got the copy first.
Just out of reach. It's over there.
Well, kind of,
yep.
sort of.
Yep. There you go.
But,
whoa.
Yeah. Wow, that was challenging.
Yeah, that's cool.
Huge sandbox adventure. It was a meat grinder, just a brutal meat grinder. Because I think that old school OSR kind of feel was a philosophy at one time, where it was like the game master against the players, and this is definitely one of those adventures where low level monsters cut out your legs and just murder you. I have some other colorful words, but I'll keep them to myself. I'm literally traumatized from playing that adventure.
Yeah, this one is a cut from the same cloth.
Exactly. Another.
Oh yeah, I love that one too. Yep. Yeah, we run. Just started it last year. This would have been actually the second year, but we do Dragon Mountain Marathon at Gamehole Con.
Oh, that's right. I saw that. Yeah.
We run it back to back and see how far collectively they can get over the weekend. I think they did make it into the mountain last year on Sunday, but yeah.
I don't even think I killed a single one. I'm really slipping. I mean,
it is a.
Well, when you go to a show, I have the same way that you want everyone to have fun, and that's I really try not to kill players anymore.
And I accept bribes.
You need to if you would sit down and talk with Jimmy, counseling maybe might be in order. It would be.
Is he just ruthless? He just there's heads are on pikes along up to the Jimmy Duffy Mance. They're all examples of players who.
I do not resemble those remarks.
Have you played? You've played in his game, obviously.
Yeah, we'll put Alex at an alien table. We'll run him through it. Let's see what happens.
I'd love it.
Even Randy McFarland says, "Never kill players. Characters are fair game."
That's true.
Also, we all have to drink.
Okay.
Yeah. So. As we're kind of, I don't know what we're going to do about moving into the second part, but I think we still have some runway here to explore. Let's just talk briefly about what are the things that when you see them, each of us can chime in, or Alex can kick it off, where you're like, oh, that's bad. I'm not liking that. I'm going to have to change it. You might not throw out the whole thing, but you're like, I got to move past that. Or when you read something, you're like, that is great. Like, that is exactly what I'm looking for. I'm an experienced GM, and I never even thought of that, For me, it's really good background that I can riff on, but not use literally, and great maps. Modules that don't have stuff for me to riff on and modules that don't have really good detailed maps, really, I struggle with engaging with.
I think that's fair.
Well, I think one of the ones that is a deal killer for me is, if they don't have a real good reason why, like what are we doing here? Why would the players be interested in doing this in the first place? And I think that lands squarely on, N2 Forest Oracle. That's, if you take a look at that and read the summary of the adventure, like, who the hell would want to play this and why? It's like someone had an idea of wanting to use these forest elements, and they had this cool, in their mind, cool character NPC concept, and then like, okay, and that's going to be an adventure about it, sort of, in a way. It's just dumb. So if there's not something that's the hook right away, you got to be able to at least do that, and that's a pretty low bar.
And really, Netflix needs to learn that too.
Oh, true. You can't have the burn that slow.
We owe Jeff a what's that?
Oh my God.
So,
Alex will never be on the show again. God almighty.
As you were speaking, I literally wrote down, and I doubt you can see it, but why do PCs care?
Yeah.
And fantastical reality.
Yeah.
So just like you said, you've got like 10 minutes to like hook people, to get their interest. And if you can't just grab them immediately, well, you might as well not even bother playing, because you might not get to another session, right? Or they're going to be too busy on their smartphone.
Or if you're a designer and you're writing something and we're in a store and we're going to flip through stuff and put that back, at the end of the day, you want people to buy your book and play it. And if it's not, so there's not some sex appeal up front, it's just not going to happen. So I agree. I
want a GM to be flipping through and go, a werewolf ogre? Oh, hell yes. Right? I want that kind of like, oh my God, I have to run this adventure. And then when we were talking about fantastical realism, it's got to be at least a little bit believable, right? Like if it's too ridiculous, and I'm not even talking about funny, but if it's just too off the wall and it just makes no sense and it's just, hey, some designer threw some shit on the wall to see what stuck, I'll pass, right?
Yeah, totally. That's the hallmark, I think, of good fantasy. Good fantasy is you create a world with rules, and they can be fantastic rules, but then there has to be an internal logic. And if you break that internal logic, it's going to be like, what are we doing here? This doesn't make any sense. And that's the same thing with gaming, exactly. You can't have too many out of the blue weird things happening with no explanation, because it's just not interesting.
Yeah,
or believable.
That in film, isn't that like set up payoff? If you don't have enough payoffs for the player, and not in terms of rewarding them directly, but just rewarding them with, if I set a mystery for my players, I can see the people at the table who are engaging with it. Mm-hmm. And then I can see the people who are kind of like just hanging back. They haven't figured out like what's really going on. And I realize, okay, I got to look in this book that I bought and figure out a way to tease the people that are with me, but also get those other people involved as well. So there's often like two things going on or more. And if an adventure is written well, and I think it is a separate type of writing than anything else, writing an adventure is definitely a genre unto itself, then it has to provide me with the tools that I can engage a variety of players where they are, and then fill in the gaps. Obviously, there's always going to be gaps.
So yeah, I'd say there's nothing worse than sitting there and trying to run an adventure, and the PC or the players rather go, so if we don't go, nothing happens.
Right.
Yeah. So if we do nothing happens. That's terrible. And you got to riff for a minute and like, oh no. What I mean by that is something's
Season 8 Game of Thrones.
Yeah, right.
Okay, there's a reason people are pissed off about this, right? Like, you built all these grand storylines, and people in their heads as they're watching, their expectations of fulfillment for these. Look, can I summon the first edition players?
Almost. Oh, yes, there it is.
Okay. Anyway, you get my point.
God.
Sorry.
What also? But do I have to drink again?
I hope so.
You're good. You got it. No, you got it.
All right. Guys, it's scotch. like just fucking relax.
Nope. In fact, I'm going to encourage this behavior. Buy Danny all the drinks.
Oh, Jesus. Shut up.
No. Well, then we have a Brian Berg card that's coming. Someone please.
They will do what you tell them, Brian. Knock it off. Mm-hmm. So what are the common things that we all feel like? What's the one thing that almost all of us do with a module or an adventure that isn't? How do we fix it? Like generally the things that I have to fix are very specific. Like, I don't like the map, I'll redraw it. Or, wow, these NPCs' motivations don't gel. There's no character web. They each have their own motivations, but they're not playing off each other, which means then the players can't play the NPCs off against each other. And I like that in my games. I like that level of engagement. So I'm constantly fixing things like that, even in a relatively well-designed module. What are people's particular bugaboos that they look for to make a printed piece something they can do something with?
Well, first of all, drink.
I believe Danny has to drink again.
He got it.
Monday. What is wrong? What is wrong with you people? It's Monday.
Nothing wrong with these people.
Alex, what do you got? What do you do?
Well, at least with my group of knuckleheads that I play with regularly, there is no such thing as a published module that's going to cover what the kind of stupid nonsense that we do. So if you're going to sit in this chair, is that you've got to have soft knees. And when there's a they may hit athletic stance is my reference, not anything puerile. My goodness. Matt,
I like
staring at me.
Puerile. Oh my God! Yeah, you're on the wrong show.
Yeah, not sophomoric.
Noted.
Oh man.
No, because seriously, we'll have a complete session, 3 hours or 4 hours of they just hit some that's not even on in the materials, and we're just inventing people that are there and stupid stuff that happens, and because we're a very RP group, and so they want to just talk everyone up, and so you've got to be able to roll with that and come up with goofy things to keep it rolling, and so I think that's for me as a design. Is when I try to write stuff, I got to realize I've had to appreciate I can't write everything. You can't do it, because then I end up cutting 30% of it in edits because it's too wordy. You know.
Is that what happened with this latest module of yours? Did you?
Some. Yeah, I had.
Oh, you
I had
learned already.
Yeah, no, I had some. I had a lot of stuff cut back, and I especially I get too wordy in box text. I love box text because it's like my chance to novelize, right? I can really, I can be really narrative with descriptions, and so I'm afterwards. I'm like, Jesus Christ, that's 10 paragraphs. Who the hell is going to sit there and read that? That's stupid. What am I doing? You know, but that's just how sometimes it flows. But anyway, so
hold it, Brian. Hold it down. Hold it down there. Okay.
Alex, you mentioned to me earlier today that you may or may not have been working on a new project.
Yes,
he is.
Maybe you'd like to elaborate a little bit on that and tease us.
Yeah, it's about to be dropped. Actually, I have the printed. I just was editing the final. It's a setting piece for the Forgotten Realms called The Border Kingdoms, and it's by me and this kid named Ed Greenwood.
Yeah.
And
that
it is
guy. He's never going to amount to anything.
What's neat about it? It's officially licensed Wizards product, so it's going to be up on the DM's Guild, but it's a Wizards product, so it becomes amazing. Canon. So it's going to be It's going to be AL legal, Adventure League legal, and so we had to go through all the vetting and all that. You know, all the. I mean, Ed does some goofy stuff, and there's a lot of redlining that had to happen. I had to fix a lot of stuff. And, yeah, it was good. It was fun. It's a great book. It's going to be. So this is all setting materials though. So so we're actually in the process, and they really like it. The Wizards folks really like it. So we're in the process of pitching another one. So hopefully we'll have another section of the Forgotten Realms that we're going to elucidate on and give more detail about, you know, what's the geography there and the culture and, you know, so on. Because that's the kind of stuff I love. I love setting materials because, you know, you can draw a dungeon, but, you know, flavor for the setting is what I always love the most when it comes to, and a good module will have at least some of that for me.
So is that the biggest flaw then? A lack of flavor?
Yeah, that's the you know, if you look at old stuff, especially, they just weren't thinking in those terms. They just dropped in.
Sure.
Bam. Here it is. Here's a grid.
There's a lich in a room.
Yeah. Yep. There's no reason, no explanation for it. There's no reason. There's no political explanation for it. You know, and I get it. That makes total sense. Stuff written in the late 70s. I mean, that's the way it's going to be. But you know, if you're doing that stuff now, you know, I don't think people are going to buy it.
Do you think that was maturity, or do you think that was, hey, we're taking a miniatures game and trying to that. These are all war gamers completely. Yeah. You know, there are people that are a lot smarter and knowledgeable at the history of D&D that can explain that much better than I can. But you're exactly right. These are all people that are playing on sand tables, who kind of stumbled into role playing rules. Dave Arneson, quite frankly, gave the initiative to do that in the first place. And so it was then sort of retconning and moving forward without really having any idea of. They would have been stunned. They are stunned looking at the world today where we are with D&D, given its beginnings. So absolutely, no, there's no question. There was not a lack of maturity. It just was a lack of. They're trying to put. You know, they're thinking about it in Napoleonic terms. You know, lining up armies and. And I've played with some old players, man, and they do that. It is the worst metagaming, just the worst. Like, all right, you can do this, I can do this. Let's all talk. It's all off camera. The whole game's all off camera. And then, all right, go. We're gonna do this. Then everyone executes their plan perfectly, destroy the thing, and then like, all right. I'm like, wow, that is a very different style of D&D than the way I play it. But that's cool. Everyone, there's no wrong way to do it. That's just the way a lot of those folks do it.
Right.
I think for me, it's balance, and I think Jimmy probably will argue with me. He likes those killer modules where, you know, it's just like crush the players into a fine paste. Okay, but I do. I'm playing Ravenloft, the 5e Curse of Strahd right now, and I love the setting. I adore it, right? But honestly, it is so fucking unbalanced.
Which way?
Oh my gosh, the encounters are not like, they're way too powerful for player characters.
Oh, okay. I haven't played that one.
Has anybody played through Death House?
Mm-hmm. I've run it. You're talking about the first one. Yeah.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah. Right. Yeah. It's just a meat grinder. There's some great flavor in there, but for the most part, it is a brutal, oh my God, run from this room into the next room. Oh my God, we can't exist. We can't live through this. Run to the next room.
It starts off slow, but then it slams you.
You meets, I don't know, Saw, which is great. It's maybe that came out wrong. That sounds great, but no, pretty brutal. But the actual adventure itself, like you start out maybe 3rd level, because I think by the time you get through Death House, you're 3rd level, and
you're supposed to. That's right.
A giant sandbox that the players can wander around in, and there is horrible things for you to encounter, which is partially the joy of Ravenloft, because maybe the game master should say, you don't have to fight everything, right? Maybe you can just enjoy some of the role playing and the atmosphere. But if your players attempt to kill everything that they encounter, you're done. It's not going to happen.
Yeah, I agree. I think the whole point of good design is to take players, to challenge them to the brink, but make it survivable. It shouldn't be easy. But it's got to take them. It's got to have real drama, but not just a buzzsaw. Because again, then we're back to Tomb of Horrors,
right?
And that's
fair. Yep.
I tell my players that there are fates worse than death, and those are the things that I want to explore. I want to make people afraid. I want to make people worry about their longevity. I want to make them worry about those things, because honestly, and I don't mean this in a pithy way, death is too easy. Then it's over. They feel bad. You kind of feel bad. But if you can keep the game going and just use other means by which to engage the player that does almost the same thing as like killing them, that's pretty effective. And I don't think you said something earlier, like you're out of the habit of killing people. I'm out of the habit of killing people too. I want people to be there around for the story, because death isn't really what it's all about. If we want to do a 1 or 2 shot where it's just like, we're going into the death dungeon, that's super fun. I get it. Bring 2 player characters and we're going to have a couple of really awesome sessions. But if I'm running a campaign and an arc, I got to think about it honestly more like a TV show, where these characters are going to grow and progress, and they're going to have setbacks, but they're not going to be dealt fatal encounters every time.
Yeah.
So if like in Death House, it's too rough, I just take the roughness out of it. I just back it down so that we can still have those encounters, but they don't necessarily all need to be, have death on the line.
Yeah, I think so. Stephen Redden McFarland's in chat, and he was saying that, he said death comes for us all. That's the story. So, I mean, I think there are opportunities where you can have a pretty good role-playing experience and still kill a character. You don't have to be out to get them.
Matt, you're breaking up.
But I'm done. I'm out. It's coronavirus. It's got my internets.
Well, yeah, obviously, death, yeah, it's a part of the game, and it should be part of the game, and it should be a real consequence, especially for poor play. It's just tough when it's a series of just unlucky rolls. If it should be a bunch to get you, despite good play, to die. It shouldn't be one. I know. Hey man, I remember I with great fondness the save or die stuff in 1E games, where you just like I brushed up against a thing and I got contact poison. I need a 17 poison save to be able to that was definitely part of the game, and it's but I think the game's better without that, without having some real wasting illness is much more interesting from a story standpoint than just dead. All right, your character's dead. All right, well, good luck. Thanks for stopping. But again, that's just me. I'm with you, Danny, that this is the games that I play are not one shots. These are long-term things, long campaigns with my crew. This is something that these characters are going to grow together and experience something collaboratively, collectively. Occasionally one will get off. That happens, but for the most part, I want the story. I want them to get to the end. I want them to get to the payoff, to the thing, not to have a haha, I gotcha, and that that leg trap gotcha.
So Nightheart Gaming, he posted something here. He says, I've killed people for poor play. I really avoid it for unlucky rolls. Like, I think he's right. If you make poor decisions, if you try to bite off more than you can chew, or sometimes unlucky rolls, that's really when I feel like it's acceptable to kill off a character.
Yeah.
But for the most part, we're not trying to, except for Jimmy.
You bloodthirsty man.
I don't know what you're talking about.
Yeah.
All right.
Aliens for the win.
You got any other?
I just wanted to close with one thing that just closed on what we talked about there, which was there's really three things that we're honoring when we run these games. We're honoring our vision of like what we want to do, because obviously anything that we run, we're going to imbue it with our flavor and our flair or whatever, to the extent that we have any. And I want to say too that I've come around on the idea of box text. We'll have a comment about that at a later time. I just played a game where all I did was use the box text. I didn't improv at all. I had a great time. So I'm coming.
Bring me back for that show. I keep on getting on internet debates on box text. So
yes, I just ran. It wasn't D&D. It was a DCC thing, but it was really good. Super minor box text. It was all that was needed. That kind of thing. But we're honoring our own vision, our own artistic interest in doing it. We're honoring our players, the people who've taken their time. They trust us to put them in compromising positions, and let's not make a mistake. We're not just putting the characters in those compromising positions. We are definitely putting the players in those places too. We're saying, here's this thing that could happen. What are you going to do about it? And that's a synthetic decision between the player and the character in most cases. And then also we're honoring the authorial intent of the people who wrote the damn thing in the first place. And I think that for a long time, I did not honor that third one much. I would take a module and I would plunder it for the ideas I liked, and then I would rewrite it for myself. And I'd say, thanks for all the inspirational quotes, Mark Akers or Jeff Grubb or Monty Cook, but, I've got my own thing I'm going to do with this now. I've come to a point now where I really try to honor the authorial intent of the people who put the thing together more than I ever did before. And I'm seeing big benefits to that. I don't need to always inject my part. My part is the performance as the GM, like performing the characters and outlining things. But I think I'm beginning to come around to being a more traditional GM in the sense of running it the way it's written and see how it falls out. And that to me is kind of the ultimate adjudication on whether or not it's a good module, whether it's a good adventure. If I'm just riffing on it, it's really hard to say what parts I screwed up or or did well at. If I run it as written, then it's I gotta that's what it is. So I don't know what that means. It's just I think it's important to remember there's three things going on.
If we do end up having a box text episode, or maybe even a last call, we can bring you and
absolutely
McFarlane in. We can have a debate. I know he's on the opposite end of the spectrum.
Hey, it's just all I'll say is just here. Spoiler alert: you don't have to read the stuff. You don't have to.
Right.
I'm gonna do it. I'm actually, when I get done with Curse of Strahd, I'm going to run the Sea King's Malice, and my players are gonna be like, an underwater adventure? What the fuck? This doesn't sound like you. And I'm gonna be like, buckle up, bitches.
Yeah, there's some pretty weird stuff. And now I've actually been hired to write even a weirder book. It's a horror themed thing. I'm going to do it with Alan Patrick. He's one of the AL admins. He and I are probably a 2021 release cooking on that thing. And so that's going to be a big book too. It's going to be a level 0 start to 12, 13 kind of thing with a lot of setting materials, and it's going to be fun. So that they like there's some pretty creepy elements. And they said, well, we want more of that. I'm like, really? Okay, I can do more of that. So yeah, but I hope you like it. You have to tell me what you think.
Well, we will.
Yeah, no, I know. It'll be unvarnished, which I appreciate. I don't need.
No, my players will be like, Kammer.
Yeah, there's some parts that are pretty mean, but we'll see. You can always, obviously, the DM can always soften it. You don't have to make those how the ways I suggest your characters should be transformed. You don't have to do that permanently.
Okay, Bashman, I'm posting that selfie.
All right, Danny. I'm tracking all the redemptions that need stuff.
All right, I'm getting it done though.
Yeah. And Matt just went
All right.
offline. There you go. Okay, Matt's back. So.
What? Oh no. Yep. Okay.
Yeah, he was locked up for a while. All right. Have we tortured Alex enough?
I think we have. Hey, let's just do a quick recap.
I think we tortured Danny enough.
I'm drunk as
drink.
fuck.
We're still missing a few of our lists.
So anyway, let's do a quick round robin. Cheers to Alex Kammer. Thank you for your patience and your
Always fun hanging out with you guys.
and your willingness to engage on this controversial topic. Let's do a quick round robin and just say, what's the module that everybody is looking forward to running?
Shit.
Oh.
Huh?
Sea King's Malice.
The King's Malice. Yeah, I was going to do
Come
that too.
on, don't even. Jesus, it's painful. So disingenuous.
Alex
No,
did
it's not.
Hey, let's be clear. Alex did not pay us to say that. He's too cheap.
That's very kind. That's
was
very
just
kind,
hoping we
boys.
would
I
say it.
appreciate it. Yeah, please. Oh, I appreciate that.
No, I'm gonna run Fandelver. I've got a plan to run that this summer because I agree with you. I had it run for me and I could tell it was great. So now I want to get inside of it and see what it actually looks like from the control panel.
Yep.
We got a clip apparently of you getting tortured with drinks.
Yeah.
Dude, so mine's gonna be.
Oh boy.
Matt, you're a robot, ain't it?
Hello, my name
There,
is
and
Matt.
Brian campaign setting Empire of the Bash, and we've got a 4-part that I'm getting ready.
He didn't even hear us. He didn't even hear us talking to him.
Oh, it's so good.
Must be a cloud must have passed overhead or something.
It is.
Gone again.
What about you, Brian?
Okay, so I have been teasing this for a long time, but I would actually like to run the adventure that comes with the 2E box set Menzoberranzan in 5th edition.
Yeah.
That's right.
I
That
like
would be a baller adventure because it is a wonderland. It is a sandbox, crazy shit. And you get to play not good characters. You don't necessarily have to play evil, but chances are not good, right? Like we don't need any scimitar dual wielding, good dark elves, right? I think that would be a ton of fun. Anybody in the chat agree with me there?
I think it's great. I loved that whole box set.
So, yep. I'm going to be running the Slayer. I'm going to look up the extra comment from Alex there because I have the A0 intro for Slavers, and I'm going to retool it and add some stuff to it. But we're going to bring it to the channel with some dignitaries, other streamers. And I have never run it all the way through. So weaving that story together, let's just see how well they do stick. So
See if they find that thigh bone in the sand that they can use as an improvised club.
There you go.
It's good stuff.
Wait, I missed there for a second. We talking about Slave Lords?
yeah, I'm going to be running the whole series with other tie-ins, and it'll all take place in Greyhawk. So
Dude,
we'll
the
keep it
thigh
in
bone, Alex. The
yeah,
thigh bone.
yeah.
That is a deep fucking cut.
Yeah, I've been splashing around in this stuff in a while, but so I'm looking forward to. Unfortunately, the cancellation of Gary Con meant that I couldn't run a Call of Cthulhu Invictus piece that I've written. That I'm really looking forward to running for some groups, and I was going to run it at a Gamehole Con. Now that's been canceled. I'm slated still to run it at North Texas RPG, but
right.
it is an explanation. Is my explanation. What I like to do with Call of Cthulhu is take historical events and give an explanation for why they happened that obviously have nothing to do with history.
Mm-hmm.
And this one is why the Antonine Wall, which is everyone knows Hadrian's Wall, but Antonine Wall is 100 miles north that basically separated the lowlands from the Scottish Highlands roughly. The Romans abandoned that.
Yeah, the one they could not hold.
Right, and because it wasn't a real wall, it was just earthen ramparts. I've got an explanation for why. And
this is not here, is she? I don't want to get in trouble.
No, she knows all about it. So,
Awesome.
So unfortunately, I was gonna I was going to run at Gary Con, and actually Manganiello was going to be one of my players, which I was really looking forward to seeing that power gamer, see what he thinks about a Call of Cthulhu character, and the lack of options in the face of certain things. Anyway, that I'm looking forward to. And there's also a new product coming out from Wizards soon that I've play tested pieces of that I'm looking forward to. I'll just say it's Salvatore based. And I'm excited about it because I think what I've read so far, it looks really cool.
It's a tease there.
Yeah, a little tease. So I'm excited to run that when it comes out. I think that'll be in the fall.
Okay, very nice. Are we teasing our game, guys?
Not yet.
Okay.
I would, but I can't talk for more than 30 seconds.
Okay.
Before turning into a robot.
Okay.
Yeah. So we can. I suppose we can just say that there is something coming, but we can't say more than that.
Okay.
So, hey, thanks to everybody in chat. Thanks especially to Alex Kammer for making a return appearance.
Part 2.
It says a lot. It says a lot for him that having been exposed once, he was willing to return. And thanks for bringing us the lore from the Gamehole, because that is a very special place. That museum is all I can think of to call it, of the history of this game, and your curation of it is greatly appreciated by us, certainly, and it really should be appreciated.
We will see him at Gamehole. It won't be canceled.
We will see him at Gamehole because we're going to get through this thing together.
Visit the Gamehole.
Yep.
And then we're all going to hang out together, and we're going to tip glasses just like the old times. So, everybody out there, this has been Wizards of the Couch. Please check us out on all of our social media. You can catch us on podcasts. Find us everywhere as Wizards of the Couch or Wizards Couch. We're on Facebook, Instagram, YouTube, here on Twitch every first and third Monday, and then every Thursday, Whose Monster Is It Anyway, hosted by none other than Casey Rift. And a revolving cast of guests who design monsters while Phil Stone draws them into existence in 60 minutes. Mm-hmm. So check that out. And then we're going to be having some other stuff starting up here soon, too. Jimmy and I picked around a little idea for a show, and we got some cool things coming. So thanks, everybody. Be well, stay safe, stay healthy, keep yourself to yourself so that we can all get better as quickly as possible. And let's just be kind to each other and understanding about different points of view. Everybody's going through some tough times right now. And a lot of the people who are resisting or maybe feeling not so good about what's happening right now, they're just worried about it, and their reaction is born of that worry. So let's just be patient with each other and take care of each other for the next few weeks and see where we end up. And we'll see you all at virtual Gary Con coming up in the next few days. 200 events already scheduled, so we're going to crush it. Guys, thanks a lot.
Last call is coming up in a few minutes, folks, so don't leave the channel.
In 5 minutes for last call.
5.5 minutes. We'll see you all in a second.
What are we going to talk about with last call?
Rules lawyers.
Since we had Kammer on, I had an idea to talk about rules lawyers. Yeah.
We'll see you, folks.
I guess that he's not a rules lawyer.